And I've always been struck by Martin Luther King, who seemed to want to say the colour of this shouldn't matter. It's the content of character. But now we seem to be turning it around and saying the colour of skin really does matter.
Mm. Yeah, so two things there. I couldn't agree more. I think the more you learn about human history, and especially world history, the more you are absolutely unsurprised when any group of people is incredibly cruel to another. Skin color has nothing to do with it. As you correctly noted, the vast majority of African slaves sent to America were not made slaves by Europeans. They were made slaves by other Africans and sold for goods by those Africans who profited and sold to the New World. There was a massive, slave trade perpetrated by Arabs, which involved millions of Africans. It also involved enslaving Europeans. China's had slavery since ancient times. I think it's easy to be provincial, having been born in a modern era, about how commonplace cruelty has been throughout the world, throughout history. And therefore, it's easy to make the mistake of thinking that somehow white Europeans have been uniquely cruel. Very few people know that the largest contiguous land empire in history was the Mongols, right? They had almost as much, the only larger empire was the British, and all of this, the conquest, whether it was the Aztecs or African nations or the Mongols or the British, they were all cruel, and we can quibble about which ones were crueler, but I think that's missing the point. The fundamental principle that is important is that, as you noted, we are all capable of enormous cruelty, and we have to have some kind of universal moral principles that discourage cruelty, regardless of whether that cruelty is directed at people of one skin color or another, regardless of whether it's justified in the name of making up for history, of compensating for history. We have to have a principle that recognizes the human being as a fundamental and valuable unit in him or herself that does not take into account their skin color.